Welcome. Thanks for being here. The first Comme des Garçons I ever bought, I bought before I'd smelled it. I'd read about Odeur 71, the famous anti-perfume built out of things that were never supposed to be smells at all. And I wanted to be the kind of woman who owned that. So I bought the idea. And the bottle was almost an afterthought. I sprayed it. I braced to be challenged. And instead it was light and pleasant and easy, and then 20 minutes in, when I'd stopped paying attention, a thread of ink slid in underneath, cool and mineral, just enough to be read. How clever, I thought. Everything I expected turned inside out, and it took me years to work out who the cleverness was aimed at. I thought I was admiring the perfume. I was filing my own paperwork. So let me start with what perfume used to promise. For about a century, perfume sold a single thing, and it sold it relentlessly. And the promise was that you would smell like someone other people wanted to get closer to. That's the whole contract. Every Chanel No. 5, every Shalimar, every drugstore body spray with a man unbuttoning something on the box, all of it is one sentence. Wear this and be approached. Perfume was the most intimate sales pitch ever invented because the product was you, improved, and the customer was everyone who might lean in. I grew up inside that contract. We all did. And you learned which scent was for being wanted and which was for being respected and which one was for your mother's friends to compliment in a way that was also a small competition. The bottle on the dressing table was a promise about your own desirability, and you renewed the promise every morning at the pulse points, like a woman signing the same lease over and over. And so when I bought Odeur 71, what I told myself was I was buying an escape from all of that. Something cleverer. Something that didn't need to seduce anyone. I thought I was buying my way out of the contract. It turns out I was buying a more expensive version of it. Comme des Garçons walked into perfumery in the 1990s and did something that looked like vandalism. And to understand it, you have to understand the woman who built the house. Rei Kawakubo had already spent 2 decades refusing the body. Lace that was holes, padding that put lumps where no woman had asked for lumps, black on black on black, while Paris sold the waste. Her word for it was punk, not the safety pins, the spirit. Punk is against flattery, she said, and that was the whole project. Clothes that refuse to flatter you. She didn't design them to make you desirable. She designed them to make you a problem the room had to solve. And she sold the refusal at couture prices to women who'd been taught to want it. And the perfume arm took her philosophy to your nose. Same refusal, same prices, same buyer, educated to get it. The brief, as far as anyone could tell, was a dare. Does a fragrance have to smell good? Does it have to smell of seduction? Does it have to smell of anything at all? Odeur 71 is the purest answer. It was commissioned to a laboratory, not a marketing department, and it was built from abstract notes, the famous 71 of them. Warm photocopier toner, the ink in a fountain pen, dust on a hot light bulb, hot metal, a toaster. It describes a place, not a person, an office, a workshop, a copy room. There is no body in it anywhere. A century of perfume had insisted a woman has been here. Odeur 71 insists nobody has, and possibly nothing. And isn't that interesting? And the press adored it. Brave, conceptual, the perfume for smart people. Too smart for perfume. And I believed every word. And I bought the bottle because I wanted to stand on the right side of the line they'd just drawn. But Odeur 71 was only the opening argument. And I didn't stop there. I bought 2 more. And the reason they belong in this episode is that each one refuses you in a different key. And together, they're the whole project in 3 movements. So on my skin, Comme des Garçons II, let me spray it on skin. It opens with a tea-tinged, citrusy, aldehydic lift that smells, and I've never told him this, exactly like my husband after a shower. And then the spices arrive and give the thing texture and shadow, cardamom and nutmeg, and the smell of the small sweetness of cinnamon. And it deepens into something with a body and a temperature. And then, somewhere in the middle, sniffing my own wrist, the way you do when a perfume will not sit still, I smell it. The ink, the granite, metallic smell laid down on a clean sheet of paper. The house's famous wink. The note everyone tells you about, arriving right on cue. The dry down is smoky and resinous and genuinely surprising. And it was somewhere down in that resin, one ordinary afternoon, that it occurred to me what I was actually wearing. This is a chypre. The aldehydic top, the spiced heart, the dark resinous floor. The most avant-garde house and perfumery had sold me under a number instead of a name. And a whole reputation for refusing everything. One of the oldest and most classical structures in the entire art form. Fancy that. And the Comme des Garçons II line on the receipt. And I thought I was buying the rebellion. I was buying the canon in a silver bottle with one clever thread of ink laid over the top so I wouldn't notice I'd bought something older than almost anything else on the shelf. The smell is the alibi. The knowing is the purchase. And what I'd knowingly bought, it turns out, was a tradition in disguise. Wonderwood is the house being funny. And if you don't know it's being funny, it doesn't work at all. It is wood. It is all the wood. Let me spray it on skin. Cedar and sandalwood and gaiac and a charred, just sanded plank wood turned up so far past plausible that the volume itself is the point. Somebody took the entire masculine woody genre, every boardroom cedar and gym bag sandalwood of the last 30 years, and inflated it into a cartoon. A wood so emphatic it stops being a tree and starts being a comment about trees, and worn straight with no idea of the gag. It's simply a very loud, woody scent that a certain kind of man wears to be taken seriously. Worn knowingly, it is the wink, the size of a forest, and I wear it knowingly, which is the whole transaction laid bare, because the pleasure's not really in the wood. The pleasure is in being someone who gets that the wood is a joke. And the day I worked out that I'd bought a punchline and was wearing it as a personality, I should have been embarrassed, and I was, briefly. And then I wore it again. 3 bottles, 3 refusals, or so the labels would have you believe. Odeur 71 refuses to smell of a person at all. Comme des Garçons II lays a thread of ink over a secret chypre and dares me to call it a rebellion. And Wonderwood takes the most oversold genre on the men's shelf and inflates it into a punchline, and I bought all 3, and I felt cleverer with each one. So here's the line item I missed. Refusal is the most expensive perfume there is. Think about what a scent like these asks of you before you can enjoy it. You have to know the story. You have to have read the coverage or known the house or had a friend explain at dinner why the photocopier note was the point. A perfume whose whole value is that most people find it cold, weird, or faintly repellent is not anti-luxury. It is a perfume you have to be educated to want. The education is the product. The smell is almost incidental. What you're buying is the certificate that says you are the kind of person who gets it. Because that is what taste actually does. It sorts people. It tells the ones who get it from the ones who don't. And the surest sign of being on the right side of the line is loving the thing the majority finds ugly. Comme des Garçons didn't stumble into this. It built a fragrance arm on top of it. The recoil isn't a side effect. The recoil is the product working. And every person who sniffs Odeur 71 and says it smells like a stationery cupboard is printing my certificate for me and doesn't know it. That how clever I had at the counter 20 years ago wasn't a review. It was the velvet rope clicking shut behind me, with me on the inside, feeling chosen. And the truly diabolical part is not the one you're expecting. You would think the racket runs on assault, that the clever scent has to punish you a little so that enduring it becomes a badge. That is what I'd braced for. And Odeur 71 did the opposite. It's gentle, and it flatters me by being easy, and then it paid me off with 1 wink of ink at the 20-minute mark. That's far more sophisticated than difficulty. A difficult perfume I would have remembered as a fight, and a fight you can resent. A pleasant one that is quietly clever I remember as taste, my taste. The house arranged for me to feel its cleverness as my own. It didn't challenge me. It congratulated me. Then it sent me the bill, and I paid gladly because nobody resents the thing that made them feel smart. There is one harder fact under the joke, and I will say it once. The freedom to find a smell interesting rather than wrong is not handed out evenly. To stand in a shop and call photocopier toner fascinating is a freedom you have to be able to afford. The same notes on the wrong body are not read as art. They are read as a problem. That is the engine under the velvet rope, and I've been paying into it for 20 years. And so you would expect me to renounce it, to tell you I poured Odeur 71 down the sink and went back to wanting to be wanted. I didn't. I still have it, and I still think it's clever. And that's the turn of the knife I can't write my way out of. The certificate worked, and it's still working. I can't tell you whether I love the bottle because it's genuinely good or because owning it flatters me. And I had wanted to believe the artistry was Kawakubu's and the racket was someone else's, a marketing department cheapening a pure idea. And it will not hold. Kawakubu designs the company, not the clothes. She said so herself. The prices, the stores, the whole apparatus of who belongs. She calls it, all of it, creation. She built the rope and called it art. And the artistry is real. The racket is real. They are the same object because the same woman made them both. So I hold both at once. This is a brilliant perfume. And it sold me a certificate of taste. And I bought that certificate as eagerly as I've ever bought anything. It's not a contradiction I've resolved. It's one I've decided to wear. So let me total the receipt. I thought I was buying a smell. I was buying a paragraph. I thought I was buying my way out of the seduction contract. I was buying a more expensive one, where the thing sold is not my desirability, but my discernment. And discernment is the only luxury you cannot wash off. I thought the cleverness was something the perfume and I shared. It was something the house did to me, and I called it mine. The line at the bottom of the receipt is that I'm not returning the item. Comme des Garçons sold me the right to be a woman who finds the smell of a photocopier interesting. I am that woman now, and I paid full price. I would pay it again. That is not anti-perfume. That is the purest perfume there is.